3PNR with Adam R. Welcome to 3PNR. I'm your host, Adam R. And joining me for this episode again is Rick Warner and also MarkyZ. Gentlemen, how you doing?
How you doing?
Real good, man.
Glad to have you guys on. I'm sure with Rick, there's always everything to talk about, right? So a lot of subjects.
That's right.
Very resourceful.
Right, man.
MarkyZ, let's talk about you. You're a musician, and you also have some involvement with both the paranormal and ufology. Let's hear the background and what got you to that.
Yeah, there's a lot. It seems like it's been following me all my life. You know, it all ties into everything that goes on. I'd have to take us all the way back to 1971, 72, when things started happening. Poltergeist, you know, we all heard that name before. Now we call it paranormal activity. Either way, it's some kind of an energy, spirit, whatever you want to call it, that's disturbing. Some could be bad, some could be good. This was a playful entity that lasted for probably 6 months. This is when I lived in Glen Olden, not even the house that I experienced later on that I wound up purchasing from my mother at the time when she was out of work and I had the credit to buy the home. But this is way when I was a kid, it started. Different strange things. How can I put it? I remember my brother when she was really little in a crib, and he said he claimed some hand touched him. And of course, you know, my parents just thought it was nothing more than a bad dream or nightmare, you know. But then years go by, I think about what happened with that and how he was petrified about that. Could it have been possibility it was some kind of interdimensional being that was touching him and it wasn't a dream? I don't know the answer to that. But shortly after that, this other type of paranormal stuff started happening, like the poltergeist. It would turn burners on when we weren't home. It would leave light bulbs in the middle of the floor. It would play with toys. I remember one time, it was the most scariest thing that happened. There was a little train that had batteries in it. Well, one time we're hearing this little noise going around, like the little train's going around down the basement in the dark. And we go to shut the light on to go down the basement to see what was going on. The train's in the middle of the floor going in circles. I go to pick it up. I'm probably, I don't know, maybe I was about 6, 7. And there was no batteries in the train. So I'm thinking, how's this thing running? Well, they say that supposedly some of these entities have electromagnetic fields, or they have ways to produce electricity and energy. It also stems back to almost the biological entities like the ETs, which we later on found out that could be a connection with these paranormal things.
I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you. I'll tell you what, there's definitely a lot of parallels between paranormal and ufology. And
yes, they found that out later on, I see.
Yeah, a lot of that stems from frequency. Right. I'd spoken to the Steve Murr a number of times, and he's under the belief that they utilize different frequencies to navigate, to move in and around different dimensions anyway. And imagine you're an intelligent species from another planet, and you're watching these humans. These people are crazy, right? They're having war. They have reality TV shows. It's pure entertainment plus a study. And then you happen upon to notice another entity that we don't quite see, but they're picking up with their sophisticated equipment. It's a no-brainer. They'd want to monitor both, right?
Right. Yes. I believe that stuff. I believe that there's a possibility of it. I know we only see in the third dimension, but I know there's many other dimensions that we don't always are able to see, unless we're what you call awakened. And then sometimes we're allowed to see in those dimensions, and I believe that I've experienced some of these things, just like many other people who said they've seen things and lights in the sky or UFOs or alien contact that they, through hypnosis, brought out to say that they were truth. You know, I mean, you got people back in 1975, like Travis Walton, you know, they took lie detector tests. How many times? It passed it up multiple times.
Right. Yeah. And
so, you know, there's no way. It's bull crap.
Right. I mean, there was this one show where they put him on, and it was a lie detector test, and they said he failed. But then later we found out that show does that purposely, right? They make people fail purposely. So Travis Walton, like me, because he's like me, I've never witnessed anything, but I would do exactly what he would do. He ran right. I got to see what this is. All right. For ufology, and I say this a lot, they don't get involved with us directly. We're to be monitored. And are they abducting some people? Absolutely. Humanity would do that. How else are we going to do a study to make a hybrid program? How are we going to observe our subjects up close? We do this to animals all the time. Yeah. Now, in real life, when you're watching National Geographics, right, and they're documenting the animals, they're informed. Don't interact with the animals. Even if they're being harmed by another animal, that's nature. You don't get involved unless you hit them with the car. Then you're obligated. You got to fix them. And in Travis Walton's case, he ran up there, got injured by the car, and they had to fix him. They were obligated.
That's exactly what happened. I've read many stories about that. He got hurt by accident.
Yeah.
The aliens felt bad, I guess, brought him onto the craft, made sure he was okay before they returned him.
Yeah, I mean, that's part.
Exactly right. That's what I've
That's
read.
their obligation. They're here to study us, and some of us happen upon them, and we get injured, and now they have to fix it. If you notice, Travis, he had experiences prior to that as a kid, so he was definitely selected. They were definitely watching him long term. They just happened to be parked somewhere, and he noticed it, and he ran up, got injured. You know.
Yep.
Well, sometimes too. I mean, they have, people that are, that claim that they've been abducted, or, sometimes you'll hear the term abductee, or they call it also experiencer. And sometimes it happens to people more than one time. And sometimes it happens to their offspring, their kids, it'll carry it on over, but there's always a lot of, similarities in a lot of cases, people that have undergone hypnosis, and then you have the people that have had implanted devices found on, implanted in different parts of their body, to where, like one guy that I remember investigating this case with this guy, and, but he, this wasn't even part of his case, but all of a sudden he's telling me, I had to go to the doctors and get an MRI done, and tell me the radiologist was telling him that he had some kind of an implanted object inside his body. He had no idea how it got there. Now, if you were maybe like, you had some shrapnel or something, maybe went in your body somehow, and, then I could kind of see, but, when they're pulling stuff out of your body, you have no idea what it is. And it's like, it could be like the size of a grain of rice, or it could be like a round little ball, a BB, something really hard. And sometimes there's a membrane that's around this, where they're saying that sometimes the scalpel, they couldn't even cut through this membrane. And these implanted devices, they'll take like a Mel meter, or, a K2 meter, other EMF meter, and they'll get EMF readings, right? And so when the devices are taken out, they're no longer getting the readings anymore. So it's like when they're in the body, the people are connected to this thing. A lot of times where it's some kind of a transmitter that some of the experts feel, that's what I think it is anyway, that information is being sent to the transmitter, about you, and there's alien species that are connecting or collecting this information.
Right.
You know what I think? I think that just like we tag birds, we tag animals to study them.
Right.
That's exactly what they're doing.
That's a very good point. I think that same thing. When Rick's speaking generational, when they're monitoring a family, this happens. People call this crazy, but like Mark said, we do tag animals to follow them for study, no doubt.
Yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, that's done like all the time. I mean, you'll hear on TV, it could be Discovery Channel, one of these shows, where they're tagging some, and even these shark shows that they have, where it's showing shark stuff the whole entire day for weeks, and they'll have some shark that's tagged, and they've been following this shark for years to see where he's going and what he's doing, And sometimes they'll run into the same shark again and remove the tag, and there's all kinds of data there that they have on this thing.
Here's the big thing, Rick. People are constantly saying, oh, this abduction sounds crazy. Well, I mean, is it crazy? Humans do it all the time. I say this a lot. We even abduct people. Let's not kid ourselves. When the CIA were performing these experiments back in the 70s and 80s, we were using people. It's not even like it's a conspiracy. It's now kind of known that some of our more notorious people that were like the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski was a project from them. It sounded like conspiracy till you actually dig in and find out about it. He really was.
That sounds like MK mind control,
Yeah, I mean, and same with Charles Manson. He was released from jail. How many? There are so many crazy things surrounding Charles Manson. It's mind blowing. And then we find out they did a study with him using LSD, right? So,
well, yeah, and you know what? And that's the whole thing too. Like what you're bringing up is a lot of we're talking about research being done, and this is also done at EMT as well. There's many prestigious universities that, many years ago were conducting these tests on people. So let's say you come in, they put an ad out or something, and they're saying that, they're going to pay you a certain amount of money to come in and then they're going to test you. And they make it sound like some simple scientific experiment when without your knowledge, you don't know that you're getting mind-altering drugs. You're giving people LSD and things like that. And the experiments they're doing was about mind control, learning how to control people by their mind. And it was said at one time that they thought, what are we going to do? Do we eliminate these people off the face of the earth, the ones that we did the experiments on, so they can't talk about what happened? And then, they said, well, instead what they would do is try to erase their memory of everything that happened, so they don't know.
Bear this in mind, the incentives for them to get in these programs are usually financially, right? They promise them money. Look, this is a study. And they're not, if you look at the people that they target, I'm not sure how they target them or who they select. But Charles Manson and the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski, Ted Kaczynski was he's an intelligent guy. I mean, he was a college graduate, top of his class. And then you got Charles Manson, other side of the spectrum, who was, already kind of a criminal, but very intelligent. So
he's very smart. Yeah, absolutely.
So they're basing it on something. I don't know, Mark, what are your thoughts? Let's get your thoughts on UFOs, aliens, and why they're here.
That's a big question because it's more accepted now than it has been in the past 30 years. People are starting to really believe it even more than ever. And now look what's going on with the Pentagon with this big meeting about what's that about. So look, there's no secret. Okay, there's no secret. I knew they existed years ago. Okay, I knew it. I didn't need a government to tell me they did. I knew they existed because of, let's just say, personal reasons. Okay. I had an opportunity to meet somebody. I don't know if you're very familiar with a man by the name of George Filer.
I'm not familiar with that name.
That doesn't ring a bell with me either.
Well, he worked with military intelligence for years. He also was in aviation, and he's retired. I had an opportunity to sit down with him for a good 45 minutes and him to tell me some serious top secret stuff that he experienced when he used to work for Hangar 18 and Area 51 involved.
Yeah, typically when you have someone that's in the know like that, they're going to be spread all over the country and the globe for the matter, because the government, from what I'm starting to learn, compartmentalize a lot of things. Meaning, just because you're a 5-star general here doesn't mean we're gonna share that information with every 5-star general.
Think about this. Okay, so the whole Area 51 thing. Okay, so back then, and it's like, okay, There is no Area 51. Okay. For a long time, they were denying that it exists.
Yeah, right.
And then all of a sudden it does exist. And just recently, I remember seeing a video, and it was Dr. Stephen Greer, who was interviewing the guy. Yes. And I can't remember the guy's name. I'm not the best with names, but I will tell you, the guy was talking about, what his position was, and they would get these briefings and stuff, basically, and they tell him all these things, and they were showing him, he's saying that in the footage that he saw, and it didn't sound like the guy was making anything up, he sounded like as a matter of fact, this is what happened. He was just talking about what was seen. He's saying in the video where he could see these alien species, there was like, you had one that was like really tall, and then there was a shorter one. And he said there was one of the alien species had like only 4 fingers rather than 5, just crazy stuff like that. And the vehicles that they found, these extraterrestrial vehicles, they said that, it was like a small, some type of a device that would produce tremendous amount of energy,
right.
That it was all based on the need of the energy, like how much energy you needed is how much energy it would alter. It knew like how much energy you're going to need to fly or get to a certain point or doing a certain thing. Right. But I mean, just stuff like that. I mean, that, it took so long for this stuff to come out. Yep. And, a lot of times there'll be, this, like, this whole thing that's been, you see on TV, these government hearings and all that. And the stuff that they're showing on TV, that was only the declassified stuff that they wanted you to hear. Then they had their other meetings that were the classified meetings, the ones that they didn't want you to hear. What were they talking about then? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it just goes to show you, it's like, we're going to give you a little bit, but we're not going to give you everything. Yep. But here's what you get right now. And the interesting thing is that people watching that now, they don't realize, a lot of people don't realize that the CIA, the FBI was already conducting investigations about UFOs. And even when Bill Clinton was around, they were doing stuff back then. They had a team of people that were investigating, UFOs and that kind of thing. And then Project Blue Book, that was all an Air Force sponsored project and stuff. And so, but a lot of times the credibility of pilots and certain people that seen things, they try to brush it under the rug.
Right. Well, are you familiar, now that we're talking to Area 51, I want to touch on Dr. Greer too, because I have something
definitely
about that. Bob Lazar. Have you ever watched the video about Bob Lazar and him opening up about him working for the Area 51 as a research scientist? And he was studying propulsion and studying all these literally alien crafts. He totally admitted all of it.
Yeah, okay. He's a physicist and he came from Los Alamos.
But, bear in mind, Bob Lazar, 2 decades ago, when he started speaking about this, right? You look at the video, particularly the gimbal video, where you see that object rotate and then it goes in the direction where the belly's going. That is exactly what Bob Lazar described 20 years ago, long before the videos were even released, long before people even had an idea that that's how they performed. The public, that is. He was describing that in perfection. Where's his credit? Why are people not saying, he was right?
Yeah, and then you had people that would say, because you'd have the people that would try to show an argument as why, he can't be credited and all this kind of stuff. But then, then I saw another video just recently that was showing his, it was a car that was running on nitrogen.
Yeah, rocket.
And he had all these nitrogen tanks and stuff like that. And you could tell that this guy, the guy is really smart. He's a highly intelligent guy. And so the people that were like trying to mock him and stuff, this guy's showing a video like, hey, you know what? This guy's the real deal, real scientist and all that.
Listen, Rick, real quick, here's where we run into an issue. And I've heard people say this to me. Like, well, I want to listen to Bob Lazar, but he had a brothel and there was this thing where someone died or whatever. Listen, if the president of the United States, Bill Clinton, great president, he was a great president, but he cheated on his wife. Who the fuck cares? He did a great job. Why does that matter what his personal life has to do with how he performs at work?
Exactly. So you know what? I mean, the guy, a shady past or something, but what does it have to do with his knowledge about physics and his educational background that they tried to say never existed, by the way?
It has nothing to do with any, hypothetically speaking, let's say he never went to MIT and he never went to college at all, right? Mm-hmm. We do know he went to Los Alamos. Somebody finally dug it up and found his name on a calling list. But the point I make is separate all of that. He described 2 decades ago how these objects perform. 2 decades later, we get video from the government, and they're performing exactly the way he described. I mean, come on. Yeah. 2 decades ago, he mentioned an element that didn't exist, and they called him horse shit, and now today, we know about it. Not only do we know about it, we're experimenting with it.
And then check this out. When they first, called him in and everything and came in, he goes into one of these hangars for Area 51. And I forgot the name of it off the top of my head right now, but it was a separate section, a certain section that he was working at. And he's going into this hangar, and in the hangar, he describes there's these extraterrestrial type vehicles.
Right.
And that he looked at them, and his job was to reverse engineer and find out, how do these things run? What are they made out of? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, that was crazy.
So I'm going to give you something. Right? Mark, listen to this too. Listen.
Uh-huh.
Corporations do this shit all the time. They will allow you to see something, right? To see if you would perhaps communicate with another company if you're going to leak information. I mean, this is practiced a lot. This is how they filter out problems. Who's to say they didn't steer Bob Lazar in the direction of certain things that they put there and other people that were working at that site to see who would leak and how it would leak? And why do you think they compartmentalized it? It makes sense. If it got out into the public about Project X, well, we only know 5 people work on Project X. Now we know it's one of those 5 people. Because if you listen to Bob, he says they were compartmentalizing. Everyone was in different areas. Everyone had different projects, and they do it for a reason. When a leak is when a leak is found, they know where to trace it to and how to trace it. There's no question of who did this. They didn't have 40 people in the same room. They really teams of 2 or 3, and they know exactly who knew what.
Yeah, and sometimes too they'll create, some propaganda of one thing to try to steer people away of something else that's going on. Like, for an example, so for, because I'm the USA ambassador for the Italian UFO Federation, and they're like one of the largest investigative agencies in Italy as far as, investigating cases and that sort of thing. So, every now and then I'll send them some articles and stuff like that. And what I did was, because, you guys may have seen one of the videos on Area 51 where, they have these giant robots and that kind of thing. This guy had this video. So what I did was, I wanted to check the video out for myself to see, hey, is this photoshopped or is this for real? So I go on Google Earth Pro, which is the better version of the regular Google Earth. And I'm going around and I'm looking for this area, and I have the GPS coordinates, and I look it up and I go, wow, there it sure is. It's right there. And you could go back and look. There's like a timeline bar that you could pull in different timelines, and you could see how these robots have moved within a period of time. So, and then when you look at them, they actually have a tool that Google Earth Pro provides. It's a measuring tool, and it'll tell you how much it is in meters, like how tall these things were, and also, what they are in feet. So, these were coming up like, showing like 52, 53 feet in height. That's tremendously high thing. And my first thing was, and here's another thing, in Area 51, they're only allowed to let the cameras get so close down there. but you could definitely tell. I mean, this is a shape of. This isn't a tree or anything else. You could tell this is a shape of robot that they are. There was two of them.
You got to keep in mind, Rick, you got to keep in mind, Area 51 is a hot spot, right? Our government's very aware of that. So more than likely, and this is more than likely, our government has facilities elsewhere where they're either retro engineering or working on black projects, knowing full well all eyes are on Area 51. It's smart. It's what
and exactly. And you know what it could be, because I'm looking at this and these things were out there for a period of time. And I said, okay, look. So my first thing was, okay, my theory was that these robots are, I don't think, I don't have enough proof or knowledge to say that these are extraterrestrial. I don't think that's what they are. I think that they are either they were used as a diversionary tactic, or they were built because they're in Nevada, so they want to see how these things hold up. When it's really cold and when it's really hot and that kind of thing. Maybe how they expand and contract or what have you, how they do out in the rain, and these things have been sitting there for so many years. And so I'm thinking either they are built they're going to use these robots in military warfare to go out on the front lines, and either they'll be operated remotely or there'll be some guy inside there operating the control.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So there's some guy in there operating. So it's either that or they were created as a diversionary tactic to keep us thinking, oh, so that's what they're doing at Area 51.
Right. Listen, by the way,
maybe they're doing other things that they don't want us to be focused on.
If you look this up, our military many years ago used to get false planes and prop them up because they knew full well at that time Russia was trying to take photographs of it. Early on, it was their spy planes, and then later on, it was their satellite. So we would prop false things for them to see, right? Like shadow figures in a sense. So while they're staring at one thing, they're not looking at the actual project at another thing, which makes sense. MarkyZ, let's do this for MarkyZ. Your personal experiences, what have you seen in life, or from any of these well-known cases that you were more relatable to?
A lot of different things. Well, I want to stem back a little bit further, because I experienced weird things that I can't explain. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like when I was a young kid, still going back when my brother was getting scared by this hand that hopefully sort of touched him when he was a child and scared him to death. He had to sleep with a light on for 2 weeks or whatever. Would that be a possibility? It wasn't actually something he was thinking of, or was it something that was from another dimension that came through? I don't know that. But I know there was this one thing that sticks in my mind is yesterday, is there were these things where I had this nightmare. I don't know if it was a nightmare, and I called this thing bad eyes because these eyes were all around the room. Either they were all around the room or they were staring at me on a table or something. I really don't know the answer to that. I just know that it scared the crap out of me. Okay. And when I read stories about abductions and different things that can relate to that, as you're asking me, that is something that came up quite a bit with these experiencers. Same with throughout life, seeing strange things every now and then. The UFO thing didn't really quite get strong in my life until later. It was more paranormal stuff that was happening with, entities from another dimension or spirits or poltergeist, that kind of thing, on and off, and different experiences that I had. I mean, I could sit here for hours and talk about it. But, to make a long story short, with the alien thing, I probably want to go and fast forward all the way up till last year, which is probably the reason why Rick wanted me to be on the show.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was just going to mention that case that I investigated with you about your case. Yeah.
I don't know if, Adam, you had opportunity to see the actual live footage that we have of that, if Rick shared that with you.
I think I sent it to him a while back.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty clear. It's a lot clearer than what you mostly see all the time. So, this guy that took the video did a really good job. It was an object that we were seeing after we were practicing Dr. Greer. Now we're going to go to Dr. Greer because I got into understanding CE5.
Yeah, okay, so CE5, that CE5 is
close encounters of
the fifth kind, and that's it's the connection of a human with an alien kind of connection. And the whole thing with the Dr. Stephen Greer is, so he has a set of protocols, and there are people that will use these protocols to try to make contact with extraterrestrial beings. So every month, there are groups of people all over the United States and probably other parts of the world that will have these events that take place on certain days with people trying to make contact. Well, the cool thing was, so I met MarkyZ on LinkedIn there, and he was nice enough to send me some video footage that was very compelling. And I also did an interview with him over the phone. You know, I refer to him as the primary witness. And the secondary witness was the other person I interviewed, which was a lady friend of his. So I actually did an interview of both. And I looked at the video footage. And this took place back in July 2021, a year ago, about 10 p.m.
About 10 o'clock, yes.
About 10 o'clock at night. And they were together with some other people. Okay, this was at Valley Forge Park in Pennsylvania. And they were together with about 6 people there, with the total of them. Yeah. And they're, laying out and looking up at the night sky. And they have, because Dr. Greer will say, use laser beams to aim at the sky, not in any pilot's face or anything like that, but, in the sky to use it as a pointer. Say, like, look at it over here. It's in this area. And I'm looking at the video myself, and you see a triangular shaped object with 3 points, and it starts to rotate in a vertical-like manner. And then it goes from vertical, then it's rotating counterclockwise. It goes into the clouds. And it comes out again. And that's just one of the strange things that they saw there. And
so what, Mark,
but that was the most compelling, that video itself.
What did Marky, what did you like? What was your experience directly? Because I'm interested in this subject, by the way. I've read something about CE5. I'm gonna find places to go to, because I've never witnessed anything. I want to, when I do the documentary, when I do an investigation, I'm going all out. I got to see something. Yeah. But what was your experience?
Man, it takes a few times, like you're not really going to do it one time and something's going to happen. I was doing it a couple times. I was going to some of these meetings and these gatherings, okay, where we would sit out, and, like he's saying, but we would do the protocols that Dr. Greer has in his program, which you could download on your phone for as cheap as $10.
I got that same ad. It's wonderful. Yeah. And it has like crop circle sounds that they use to connect with these beings. Yeah. And they use other sounds too. But tell them about the meditation part that you guys also try to do.
Well, first what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to get into a heavy meditative state with the whole group that you're with. So everybody's on the same page. Everybody's believing the same thing. Everybody is in the same mindset. Because if there's one person who doesn't have the mindset, it can deter everything going on within that group.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, you're a musician, right? And musicians and even athletes, if you're on a team, a squad, or a band, and you're not operating on the same wavelength, it's not going to come out well. So
no, absolutely. So we're doing exactly what Dr. Greer instructs us to do with the group, and then we start playing these crop circle tones, and you're supposed to play them for anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes straight. What that's going to do is establish your location for the ETs, okay? Kind of like a GPS to them.
Yes, it's a frequency, yeah.
Yes. So they're able to lock in your location GPS-wise, and that's how you're able to get the contact without waiting to see a UFO. That's where Dr. Greer is a genius. He studied this stuff and found out how he can do this. And we can contact them, and he calls it close encounters of the 5th kind, where we contact them.
I have to.
Yeah.
I saw that there was a documentary about that with Stephen Greer. I believe it is called Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, right?
Well, to make a long story short, guys, we're doing it exactly like you said. This is probably the third time I'm going to one of these meetings. Okay. And we played the tones. It was quiet. There was nobody around, which was great because there's no interference, breaking concentration of any way or any shape or form. And then after playing the tones, I literally said, and everybody will tell you I said it. I said, man, if you guys are around, show yourself. We're out here trying to contact you. Let's see it. I swear, as soon as I said that, that's when we saw this object out of nowhere come across the sky, making no noise, very bright.
Man,
amazing.
I got to go see this.
That's cool.
The video, by the way, that you guys have for this, I'll have Rick send me a copy. I'll put it in the description for the podcast so people could view it. All right.
Cool. Yeah.
So, moving to that, Marky, let's get into, so what happens to you after you see this now? What's the effects on you?
Well, I'm a musician.
Right.
So the effect on me was I wrote a song about the experience.
Oh, yeah. Tell them about that. That's great, man.
My song I wrote is a heavy metal song, hard rock, with a project I have called Anointed Prophecy. And the song's called Lights in the Sky. The song is about that experience that night.
That song. So if let's say someone wants to find that song, could they find it on YouTube?
Absolutely. I have a YouTube channel for Anointed Prophecy.
I will link that in so people can find it. I'll
listen. You know what I did?
Good.
I actually created the music playing in the background to the actual live footage of Lights in the Sky.
Well, that's great.
That's all.
It's really pretty cool, actually. It's very enjoyable. But what I like is the fact that MarkyZ took, shared not only his experience with other people by sharing his video and all that, but sharing it with me, and then I'm sharing it with others too on ERC, Extraterrestrial Research Center website. But also now he's creating music based on his experience.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So and just the other day, I was looking at, somebody had sent me an article about this guy named Jim Sullivan, who back in the 70s was like a folk rock type singer, and he had a music album was called UFOs. So this guy was going on and writing all this music, and he takes this road trip. I think it was out in Arizona or something, staying in this. I can't remember if it was Arizona or New Mexico, but anyway, he stayed in this motel, and all of a sudden, nobody knew where he was. I mean, they found his car, but the guy was missing. And his ID was there, his driver's license, all that, and one of his albums and all that, and so there's a lot of theories as what could have happened to this guy. Could it be, somebody abducted this guy? Could it be alien abduction, or was it somebody from the government? Maybe they wanted to shut this guy up.
I mean, listen. If the government wants you gone, right? You're gone. There's no maybe. If they want you gone, you're gone. They have the resources. They have the abilities. It's mostly why Bob Lazar went very public with his image and his name, because in the beginning he wanted to be anonymous, and when he realized that they were gonna get onto it for that, he went public, because that guy doesn't want attention. You see it at every interview, everywhere you see Bob Lazar, he doesn't want to be bothered. So his reasoning for going public is, my life might be at stake here. I have to. So if anything does happen, they know. There's no question. A lot of people went silently into the night. A lot.
I bet.
Back to what MarkyZ was talking about earlier, about the paranormal being interdimensional, what your experience is.
Yes.
I'm in line with that. I don't subscribe to heaven and hell. I think there's dimensions, and based upon your frequency and behavior here is what dimension where your energy goes, right? I think there's a recycling program. I think some energies get recycled here, start over again, So when you're telling me interdimensional for spirits or the entities at all, I can get behind that. That makes a lot in the world of physics. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Sure. Everything works on vibration. Everything's a vibration.
Yeah, it's true. Our organs, our eyes,
including music.
Exactly. There's different frequencies in hertz that create moods, create emotion, create people to do things against their will.
I agree with this, man. Music, believe it or not,
you got a hertz that was developed by the Germans, and the Germans were very intelligent, smart people. And they worked with, I believe, ETs to get technology. I really believe that. Okay. And they designed that 440 hertz, which an E440 is your standard tuning of all music as we know it.
Right. Prior to was 400. Yeah. Prior to that was 432 hertz, was more of a relaxing thing.
432 hertz is the God frequency, is the frequency of miracles, is the frequency that all plants in life and all creation, as we know, thrive on that vibration.
What is that hertz again for the God frequency?
432 and 528.
430, yeah.
Interesting.
528 is the miracle tone.
Well, I listen to music at night before bed at 432 hertz.
There you go.
Right.
That's good.
That's all I listen to a lot of like a very strong cerebral music that's tuned at 432. I only became aware of this not long ago, right? I was oblivious to it prior.
Well, here's something that's going to make an interesting point that I never knew until later on in life, learning these things. Hitler knew 440 hertz tuning frequency would make people more susceptible to be controlled.
Yep.
As it dulls the pineal gland.
Now, you know what? Listen, to support that, so here in America, prior to the 50s, everything was 432 hertz tune. It was advertisers and advertising companies that took a note from the Hitler book and said, you know what? At 440 hertz, they're going to be more easily influenced to purchase our product and take notice. You can.
How bad is it?
I mean,
how bad is it?
I've read that study. A lot of the big advertising companies out there for radio utilize 440, and then it became a standard tuning for the country.
That's what I'm getting at. Now, listen, this is the part that I know. This is how I know, and they want to control. I have my own digital 24-track Tascam CD recorder that I record my music on and transfer them to WAV files, send them down to my buddy who does the lead guitar and mix and masters at Morrow in Brazil on his Pro Tools. Now, what I'm getting at is I ran into a guy who was one of the guys I interviewed on my show, The Rockin' House, Michael C. Draper, who is a genius and comes from a long list of scientists in his family. He studied all this stuff, and he was bringing it to my attention that what I need to do is tune into 432. Well, we tried to sit there and take all the recordings so I didn't have to re-record everything over and try to just remaster it in 432 hertz. Almost impossible to do without having to retune and do everything over. Now, my second point. On my board, I can save things in certain hertz. But isn't it kind of ironic that I cannot save something in the area of 432? It goes from 425 to 450. I can't save nothing in between.
It's funny you say that because as I did a podcast, I looked for the same thing. I couldn't find it. I'm glad you. So it's not just me. I thought it was just, I'm not really a tech person, but.
So does that make you think that that's how they keep control of the music business? That's how they keep control of who becomes big and who don't?
Of course.
Oh, I think so.
I'm sure if there's an artist out there that they have distaste for, that they'll set their toning to something that'll be completely displeasing to the public. It's very possible. I mean, the idea that an advertising company, and this isn't like conspiracy. You could read these facts. These are facts. The reason they give you for why they went from 432 to 440 has nothing to do with control. Of course, I'll say that. But when you look at when you read about people that speak of meditation, 432 hertz is something you meditate to, right? 440 hertz keeps you pretty much on edge and alert, and it gives you a state of like, you know, a 360. You're very primal, looking around you, and you're willing to take any information to learn something to help you survive, right?
Right.
Which
so
is,
they can control that. So
right.
they can feed you what they want, and you're going to accept it.
So when you're hearing that commercial and it's like, should I ask my doctor about Cialis? You know, it's right. more it's subliminal, right? It's a very suggestive tone and a very suggestive item. And because of its tuning, you very well might pay attention to it. And I noticed because, do you know any of these stupid commercials about pharmaceutical shit? I remember them from a long time ago, and I shouldn't. I don't give a shit about that. Why do I remember it? So
it goes in your mind, and they program it.
Right.
Like I just said.
It's crazy. I mean,
it's real.
That's a real thing. People could look this up. Look up the difference between 432 hertz versus 440 and the pluses and negatives for that.
I have a question, and this is for MarkyZ. So I remember, I think it might have been like about a year or a couple of years ago, and I was watching some videos on on lead guitar and different things, some riffs and things. And one of the videos, I was drawn in by this title or something of like, that there's some kind of like chord that you could play that is, I guess it was known as like some kind of satanic chord or something like that. You know, and I'm thinking, you know, what the heck is this? You know, so, you know, it was pretty bizarre. So this guy kind of did like a video on it, and he said it was this special kind of a chord or something that was considered like a satanic chord of some sort. I don't know if you know anything about that.
Well, hopefully I'm not playing that chord. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't read music. I just know how to play. I play by ear, and I just have a natural gift blessed by God or a higher power, whichever you want to believe.
The architect. I could subscribe to that. Look, I play guitar, piano, and a number of other instruments too, and I never learned how to read sheet music. I just, like you, play by ear, and I pick it up pretty quick.
Yeah, and for me, I've only used tablature, you know, so I've never like learned how to read music, but I just go, oh, okay, there's the tabs, you know, and just play off of that, you know?
Yeah, well, basic tabs I understand, but I see things in patterns.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a lot in common with that.
You know?
Yeah, I share that same concept to you, man. I see a lot of patterns. People would ask me like, oh, how are you playing guitar and learning these songs without reading them sheet music? And it's just, I can hear it, and for whatever reason, I can imagine it in my mind, and then I play it.
That's exactly how cool. I am.
Yeah.
I imagine in my mind, or I can hum it, and then I make it happen.
Right.
And I manifest it.
Yeah, even when I first discovered, I was a kid when I first discovered half-step tuning, like what Slash played in, and I knew that just by what you said. I was humming it, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm humming that a little higher than what it actually is. And then I hummed my guitar into the tune that would line up with Slash's. So yeah, it's weird that you say that.
Mm-hmm. I like tuning down because I tune down the C sharp on everything I do with anointed props.
You know, it's an amazing thing with music, and you were touching on it earlier. The ability to hear a song that will make you sad. Like if you listen to a sad song and it'll put you in a sad mood. I don't give a shit if you were the happiest guy in the world when you walked in a room.
That's right.
If you let the music enter your mind and you and then you're comparing parts of your life versus what you're listening to, it's going to affect you. Just like when you want to go work out, you're going to listen to some upbeat stuff, man. You're going to want to get that energy pumping, and music can do that. So that being said, when we're talking about CE5 and other meditative states to perhaps summon, whether it be spirits or summon even UFOs, I could subscribe to that because there's a lot of power in suggestion, a lot of it.
Exactly.
And our brains, if you look at the human brain, I say this a lot, I repeat this a lot, the human brain is the most complex computer on planet Earth currently. We have not been able to.
Computer, exactly.
Right. We haven't been able to. We have not been able to replicate it yet. That being said, I think the brain has receptors, and I'm finding more and more people with substantial head injuries are ones that are tuning. And when I say this, I don't mean they're crazy. I try to say this to other people. If you injure your left leg, your right leg's going to compensate. It's going to get stronger, right? It's going to.
That's right. Yeah.
And so when you injure a part of
happens,
so when you injure a part of the brain, another part of the brain has to compensate. And so when that happens, that part of the brain that's compensating might have a receptor that you would otherwise not use. Now you're in tune with something all new, and you could visualize and hear things and have new perception. You could perceive things yesterday you couldn't. You know, how about that guy? Remember the guy, MarkyZ, got in a car wreck, really bad, and then he could play piano at a master's level. It was like big news back in like the early 2000s. Major head injury. Wow. Now he can play piano for whatever reason he can.
Imagine that.
Yeah, I mean,
I see your point.
Yeah, the brain's powerful, man.
Yeah, and it is. And, you know, now that you're saying that, that might be the reason why I'm a unique musician as I am, because I play my opposite of what I was born.
Right.
I taught myself to play right when I'm a left-hander. And I can't play a guitar in my left hand or a bass in my left hand to save my life. But you put it in my right hand, and I'm like a pro. I taught myself and trained my brain. While you're saying this, it can be taught to do things.
It's truth.
That normally would not be acceptable to a lot of people. I don't know how to put it, but
well, listen,
my situation was I didn't want to buy a left-handed guitar. Okay.
Right.
To make a long story short, because back in the day, you'd be paying a couple $100 more just to have that.
Right.
I was like, you know what? I'm just going to learn right-handed, so I don't got to pay the extra money, and I can go get a guitar now and not have to wait because I have to wait to get extra money to buy it. So I sat on one string and played "Mary Had a Little Lamb" on one string for 6 months.
Yep.
So I trained my brain to play the opposite of what I was born.
That's exactly that's what you just said. Exactly what you just said is the same operating system elite athletes work with. That same kind of mental drive. I'm gonna work on this until it becomes memory muscle and it's natural.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a powerful effect. Like, look, I play a lot of instruments, and I'm a very creative person. And listen, I'm not saying my parents are clumsy, but I've been dropped a lot as a kid. I've had some head injuries, and so who knows? Maybe my brain's compensating. Well, no, here, play guitar so you don't feel bad.
Well, like Bruce Lee used to say, like, you know, I fear not the man who has done 1,000 different kicks, but the man that has done one kick 1,000 times.
Yeah.
You know, so, and I love the guy's philosophy because, you know, I'm a martial arts instructor and I teach the Filipino martial arts. I've been doing it for a while. Wow. And, you know, I go to people's homes and teach their business, their home gym, private gym, that kind of stuff. And, you know, the way, you know, I've been taught in Filipino martial arts, because I do a lot of extensive weapon training. You know, we do single stick, double stick, we do knives, swords, wow, tactical tomahawk, bow staff, a lot of different things. So, and what we do is we train the left, even though you may be predominant with the right hand, we teach you to be able to use the left hand, you know, in all kinds of weapons, be as equally proficient with your left as you are with the right. Because that way, if the right arm gets injured in battle, you still have your left arm to be able to compensate for what you could, you know, because you can't fight with the right now. So you have the left. So that's amazing. But like for me, you know, like when I play an instrument, you know, I'll pick, you know, my left hand, I'll be my chording hand, and I'll strum with my right hand, you know. So this because I feel more comfortable that way. Not that I had a desire to change over to a left-handed guitar or a left-handed ukulele, but you know. But as far as doing weapons and stuff, you know, I'm used to, you know, having to fight left-handed as much as I do right. You know,
that's exactly how they train elite soldiers, like SEALs, Rangers, the same thing.
Yeah,
that's you have to. If they find out you're a righty, they're going to focus on your left.
Balance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
martial arts is based on balance, isn't it?
Yeah. a lot of it, but the majority of it, your equilibrium is a huge percentage of whether it be fighting, whether it be music, whether it be as an athlete, your equilibrium is an enormous part of all of that, right?
So in the end, that's what that stands for.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, cause you were a amateur boxer, Adam, correct?
Yeah. I had boxing in my past. I mean, I was a gym rat for a long time.
So imagine, you know, like imagine a boxer going into a match and you're only boxing with your predominant hand, even though that guy may write his checks and eat with the right hand.
Right.
So imagine, you know, he's this, you know, okay, well, there's the jab, you know.
Well, it's strange.
But he's fighting with one hand, you know. I
didn't fight lefty or righty. I was an ambidextrous fighter. I had more strength than my left. I'm right-handed, but my left hand's stronger for whatever reason that is. No idea. In fact, it's funny because when I carry heavy things, I go to my left arm, and I'm right-handed. When I eat, I'm left-handed. When I play golf, I'm left-handed. When I shoot pool, I'm right-handed. When I play guitar, I'm right-handed. I'm a confused person.
I'm right with you, brother. When I play my instruments, I'm all right-handed. When I do all my art and digital graphics, it's all left-handed.
Yeah, it's a bizarre thing. That's what I say about the brain. The computer we call our brain can do amazing things if we tune it to do so. I mean, it really comes out of discipline. MarkyZ,
that's true.
You've spoken with a lot of musicians over the course of time, right? You've interviewed some.
You're asking me that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I've over 130 interviews with national known artists with my show called The Rockin' House.
Yeah, that's. I want to get to that. I want to talk about The Rockin' House. Where is that? Where could people find that? Where can they tune into it?
You could go on our website. We got a website. It's called The Rockin' House, all one word, therockinhouse.net.
Yeah, because
you go on our YouTube channel. Same thing, The Rockin' House. You'll find it.
Is that still in production? Are you guys still doing shows on that?
Oh, absolutely. I just actually booked Mark Christian, if you know who he is. He's an actual national artist that's signed the Universal Music Group in Warner. He also was a producer for Big F, which that band sounds a lot like Nirvana meets Danzig.
Oh,
and
wow.
He produced these guys. And he's also a country guitar player, I believe. And he's coming on my show on the 14th. I believe it's the 14th of June I booked him for. And, when I have these people on my show, they connect me with other people. It's a really awesome networking. I mean, I've gotten other rock stars through rock stars. It's so cool.
Well, you know what? I am the biggest believer in networking, okay? Because, and I do this all the time because, like, I'll come on a show, you know, and I've told Adam this and say, hey, you know what? I think I have a great guest for you. And you know, and vice versa, it works for me. I mean, I've had, you know, different shows I've been on. I've brought other people in, and then other people said, hey, you know what? I recommended you to so-and-so person that has a podcast, and they want to talk to you about coming on their show, you know, that kind of thing. So I kind of believe in a big believer in networking because there's a lot more power in many people working together to help each other than it's one person trying to do everything by themselves.
100%. Yeah. That's exactly right. I believe that.
You got to have a working relationship with multiple artists, multiple people that do things, because if you don't, what ends up happening is you become competitive with each other. And believe it or not, competition's good in certain ways, but when you're doing a podcast or you're doing like a music show or you're talking about ufology, when you start competing, the real information doesn't get out there. The real entertainment's not getting out there. It's better to have like that symbiotic relationship with all these different entities. It's the only way you're going to, it gets it out there and it makes it more comfortable for the people surrounding them. And I didn't start this podcast to become a millionaire. I promise. You know what I mean? I did this because I want to talk about subjects I like talking about. And then I'm big on promoting too. I will always promote someone in a heartbeat. Not even a thought.
That's huge.
I mean,
I'll have you promote me.
you know what? We're going to talk and post about that. You gave me some ideas. We're going to have a conversation. Yeah.
Oh, we got a lot of things to talk about.
Yeah, we do.
Me and Rick have already been talking about a few things, and I think we're going to get some balls rolling. I'm pretty excited about these opportunities again, all because of networking.
Yeah, and it's the way it should be, right? I mean, it's
and that's what it's about. It's just like, okay, so Joshua, who you met, who's the director from Phantom Detectives that I'm part of, so he's, I'll recommend him from things. He'll recommend me. We kind of work together. And so he had recommended me to be in this magazine called Beyond the Gravestones.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going to put me on the cover, which is really cool. And it's going to be a special edition magazine, and it's going to be all about extraterrestrial kind of thing. And then I was talking to the publisher owner of the magazine, really nice lady, and she was telling me that, for coming, being in the magazine and everything, she was going to give me, some free advertising in the magazine. I thought, wow, thank you, man. That's so generous. So right away, as soon as she did that, I thought, okay, you know what, man? And I already thought this before anyway. I says, I could bring in some guests for her that want to be in the magazine, talk about their UFO experiences. And then I told her about MarkyZ, about, his being a musician, his music and all that. And she has a section for, other music artists and stuff that want to talk about their paranormal experiences and things.
Yeah.
So I thought that's really cool. So now if I bring MarkyZ into that, and he could meet some of these other musicians, you see how it all just works together?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's the way it should be.
Absolutely.
All right?
Yeah.
All right, listen, before we close, because we're going to talk in post, I got some ideas. Before we close, I'll ask Rick first, and then I'll ask MarkyZ. Rick, when do you think that it's already accepted, ufology is an accepted thing. After 2017 and the videos our government released, look, you can't doubt there's UFOs. What's controlling them? It's still subject for, discussion. But when do you think our visitors or our observers, whatever they may be, are going to be more mainstream? When are we going to see them?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. In a sense, they've already been seen, but maybe not in the way everybody wants them to be seen. It's kind of like, let's say take somebody who was an experiencer who's gone under hypnosis and all that, and they have a pretty compelling case of that this person is an experiencer that has been abducted, and what they've seen is not like when you walk out in your backyard and you go, okay, well, there's an alien species in my backyard.
Right.
Some people are kind of expecting things to happen that way. Now, there has been some, of course, people that have already talked about seeing, alien species and seeing, like this guy that worked at the Area 51 that talks about seeing the footage of vehicles that have been crashed. Because he said that all the footage, it was like, one vehicle crashed to another. And he was even talking about like, what was it that made him crash, but he said, and he's talking about the weather, how it was real stormy out. Maybe that contributed to the problem at the time.
Right.
So, but here's the thing, I think, like, as one scientist puts it, an astronomer, I mean, like, if you ever see a picture of the Milky, you're on Earth, and I've seen beautiful pictures of the Milky Way galaxy that could be seen really well on certain parts of the world.
Right.
And you're looking at it and you're going, wow, that's beautiful. Look at that up there. But then you realize, wait a minute, you're actually in that galaxy. We're in that galaxy. Even though you're looking up in the night sky and you see that Milky Way galaxy, our planet is in the middle of that. And you're like, wow. And if you think of like, the mileage from going from one point of the end of the galaxy to another point, I mean, it's like billions and gazillions of miles that it's mathematically way behind our comprehension of like how far it really is. And they say that's just one galaxy. And
Have many.
Then, and then if you think of, okay, well, we know a lot of the main planets, Saturn, Uranus, Mars, Earth, all these different planets. And then after that, when that all happened, growing up as a kid, you had all of these planets, and then now you got these exoplanets and stuff, and then there's, more and more planets. Well, they're saying the telescopes that we have can reach out to really far distance places that are billions of miles away.
You got to keep in mind that those images you're going to see from the most sophisticated telescope, you're looking back in time. What you're seeing has already happened probably 1 million years ago or more. Certain kids.
Oh yeah, exactly. Right. And the thing is, like they're saying, the scientists will say, it's kind of naive to think that if there's billions of planets out there, and many of them haven't been discovered, to really think like, come on, we're really the only planet with any kind of living species. Come on now.
Yeah. Here's what I think personally. There's definitely planets out there that are, they have life on it, and they're probably primitive, right? I said this a lot too. They're probably in the Stone Age. They're probably in the Bronze Age. They're just reaching where we were in the 50s. And then there's some that are so far advanced that their interest is not going to be like, well, where can we find life somewhere? Their interest is going to be like, well, how do we preserve our species, and where do we move to next, as we're doing currently? That's our train of thought now, like Elon Musk. Where do we go next? Because Earth is not here forever. We have to secure the species. We must move on. That's
right now, like there's a I remember seeing this website out there. There's a company, people are already working on time warp and how to warp time.
Yeah.
So basically, if you think of it like if you take a cord from one end to another, and this is how far it travels from point A to point B. You hear the fastest, thing between 2 points is a straight line, whatever. But then they're saying now, if you take this thing and now you bend it. So now the path you're traveling from A to B is now shorter.
Right. Well,
because because you're traveling in a time warp.
In theory, unfortunately, can our physics handle that warp? Right. We still got to think about ourselves as a biological creature. We may be able to warp space time. What happens to us, our physical body when we travel through it? That's unknown still. MarkyZ, what do you think? When do you think we're going to come to an all-knowing as far as visitation from a higher intelligence?
Well, that's hard to say. It's almost like, when's Jesus going to come back? Only God knows. But the way things are looking, it's going to be soon. Because
I think so too. Yeah.
Pentagon thing going on, and now I'm starting to see all kinds of stuff on CNN and all these different news broadcasts that we are going to be in an intergalactic connection very soon. The psychics are predicting these things. They're really saying it's going to happen like in the next 5 years or less.
Well, now, and a lot of people don't even know about this. Okay, so there's an organization called the AADC, which stands for the Alliance for Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Control.
Whoa.
And basically, so what they're doing is they are working on, and there's a lot of people behind this. There's thousands of people behind this organization financially. They already have about $150 million in the bank to work with, and they already have the plans made up for the building of an embassy for extraterrestrials. And so what they're trying to work on right now is they're trying to get this embassy approved and passed that they would allow and make it official that there is going to be, like you have an embassy for different countries. Well, this embassy would be for extraterrestrials. And then they're looking for a host country and they'll say, like, this is going to be great. Like, when you hear of like a host country that sponsors the Olympics, doesn't that bring them a lot of money? It brings a lot of money to the country because what happens? A lot of people travel there.
They want to see
and it's opening businesses and stuff like that. So they're saying like, hey, you know what? The host country that has this, this is going to bring in a lot of visitors because people alone, they're going to want to travel just to see what this embassy looks like. And I've already seen the drawings. I've seen the pictures of what the plans look like. And this thing looks absolutely amazing. They got this really thick brochure and all this kind of stuff. So, matter of fact, in October, they're having the Alliance for Diplomatic Conference. It's sponsored by the ADC.
Huh.
And that's going to be a great, I'll have to send you an invitation for that for you guys.
Well, in closing, I'll put it this way. To support what MarkyZ said, I think it's coming sooner than later. I'll say why. The billionaires are racing to space, right? Elon's motivations for the purpose of study of Mars and to repopulate. Jeff Bezos is doing it because why not? I'm wealthy. And so there's a number of other billionaires that I've been reading about that are all building these same programs to go to space. They're going to bring people there, celebrities.
Yeah.
And I think our government's stepping up and speeding up the process about disclosure and what they know, because eventually when you get celebrities and billionaires in space and they're recording and they see shit, you're not suppressing it. It's going viral very quickly, I might add. And so I don't think that's when our visitors will communicate with us. I think when we eliminate things like race, religion, and hatred and that nonsense, we start viewing each other as a species is when we'll communicate. But as far as their existence, and undoubtedly their existence being seen not just by military, but by civilian, the billionaires are going to do it. They're going to push the agenda because the government's not telling them you can't go to space. You can't go to the moon. Jeff Bezos has it in his mind. He's going to bring celebrities to and from the moon as a vacation. So that being said, they're going to have to speed it up because things are going to be seen more, especially in the vastness of space where there's no artifact, there's no light to distort what you're seeing at. You're seeing it as you're seeing it. And when they start recording that, and you get these wealthy people that are starting to make it viral, because at the end of the day, Jeff Bezos sees a UFO, he's going to make a channel on Prime for it, period. And if he does get to the point where he meets an alien, it's not going to be like, well, are you here to save us? It's going to be more along the lines, how do I get Amazon on your planet? And that's what it's coming to.
Exactly. Well, here's the thing too, because when you hear NASA right now has plans to go to Mars and take some astronauts there and to live on the moon for live on Mars for like a month. And the reason why apparently they're doing it is first saying, well, why are you going to go all the way out there? It takes you almost a year to get down there. And then now you're going to stay out there for only a month. What's up with that? Well, I guess my understanding has to do with something, the aligning of the planets. And that's why, because when you go past a month, that it changes something to do with the time or something crazy.
It's the distance between Earth and Mars is lesser at a certain time of the year. And so your window of opportunity to travel is limited, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, we're going to be
the other thing too is because even in space, even if you're not, even, let's say you're in zero gravity space, but you're like in your International Space Station and stuff like that. Well, there's other things to consider of people that's living on another planet, and it has to do with
our
the effects of space, what it puts on your body.
The radiation and so your physiology is going to be all called into question. Here's the truth of the matter. This is the exact truth, and this might support the claims of people that think that we're from the aliens are us from the future. If we start being interplanetary, living on the moon, living on ships, we're going to have to evolve. No, there's no other way about it. We have to evolve. We're not going to need all the mass that we have on our bodies. Perhaps we're going to lose some of the muscle in our body because our body needs no muscle in a non-gravity environment. Well, we'll have to be more cerebral so we can communicate without using the traditional form of communications, which allows our brains to evolve and get larger. We're going to be able to have to see without outside of our atmosphere. Our eyes are going to have to evolve as well, so we can see in low light scenarios. We're going to have to evolve as a species. Period. It's going to take a long time, but it's going to happen.
Turn into a zeta reticuli.
Yeah. So yes. In order to do these things, we have to evolve. But anyway, gentlemen, it's been a great conversation. I'm going to speak to both of you in post, and anyone listening, whether it be day, night, or whatever it is for you, good something or another.
Yeah, it's been a great show, man. Thank you for having us on board.
Indeed.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys for being here.
you.